Hello again, Sybilette here, commentating another match of UPL. We've got a week 2 match here between Gastlies and BeeOrSomething. So Gastlies got off to a good start last week with a win, while B, I think, still figuring the tier out a little bit after week 1, but hopefully has a bit more of a grasp on it this week, and we'll hop right into it and see how this goes. So game number 1, leading off with a Tauros versus a Starmie. Interesting lead matchup because it'll tell us a lot about Ghastly's team, how much she values this Tauros. In this position, she could switch out to something to catch T-Wave from Starmie if there's like a barrier Mewtwo or the like. Or she might just say, I'm going to attack with this Tauros and try to paralyze and take down the Starmie. But goes to Chansey, pretty reasonable thing if you have a Chansey. B opting not to throw out a T-Wave and possibly sleep block himself, so Ghastly's might get a free chance at a Sing here, and lands it. So if B doesn't have another sleeper, this looks pretty rough for him. And I think he doesn't by this attempt to wake. Yeah, so this is already getting off in Ghastly's favor pretty quickly. I am curious what she's doing with a Chansey here. It's a little antithetical to what she usually does, but I'm sure there's a good reason for it. It is a pretty consistent sleeper, so maybe saw something in what B brought week 1, or maybe just has a plan for this sort of team. So B so far revealing Starmie, Executor, Rhydon. This is almost looking like an OU team. We know there's going to be a Mewtwo and Mew. So what the last is will probably determine a lot. I would think you'd want like a physical attacker to go with like Starmie plus Egg getting some para. Maybe you run like T-Wave, Earthquake, Mew, and then you've got 3 paralysis spreaders over here, plus Rhydon and Tauros to break through. Rhydon, of course, a pretty reasonable switch into Chansey. Most of them in Ubers will be running Seismic Toss so that they're not totally walled out by Amnesia Mewtwo and can actually chip it down. Same for Slowbro. Once you force that recovery, you can take a chance to get out of there. So I would guess it's probably like a very standard Mew set and like a physical attacker like Snorlax or Tauros from B's side. Mewtwo set could really be anything. It could be something that benefits from paralysis support or something like Amni, Blizzard, T-Wave, Boom. But we'll have to see as a bit more of this gets revealed. Ghastly's side, very little shown so far. Lead Tauros suggests maybe wanting to scare out sleepers at the start so you can get Chansey in, get your sleep, and then just probably sack it, knowing her that she's probably not going to try to keep it alive for too long with the Executor gone. But obviously there'll be a Mewtwo and a Mew. Knowing her playstyle, probably both have T-Wave. And the last two could really be anything, any kind of like win con setup, but maybe more likely to be physical offense. Going straight to Mew, I would guess this is going to be like Psychic, T-Wave, Mew, or something like that. Yeah, Psychic, T-Wave, Explosion, Softball would make sense for her, and T-Wave, Mew from B as predicted. Yeah, I'm going to guess she had T-Wave and it just didn't work out, and now B is going to go back to Rhydon expecting T-Wave, and gets it. If this has Psychic or some other special attack, though, it's not that good for Rhydon. Doesn't work out there, whatever she clicked. And I have to wonder if she has an Eggy, based on the fact that she's not going to Executor at this point. But lands the Psychic, gets a solid 40 on Rhydon, and then gets out to a Cloyster. That's another Ghastly's favorite. Nice call from B, Rock Sliding there. So Rock Slide in Gen 1 does not have a flinch chance, which means that was, and of course, I mean, the Mew would have died to Earthquake anyway. That was purely a Cloyster or Flying type coming in prediction, like Cloyster or Articuno coming in. Really nice move. Gets a good bit of damage on this Cloyster, and then of course Starmie walls Cloyster if it doesn't take freeze. Now, she might just immediately boom and goes back to Chansey. So B calling that out, really laying on the pressure here. A body slam paralysis would basically mean that this Cloyster goes down, but it dodges it this time. Now I wonder if she just booms it. Yep. That's like Ghastly's classic. Just rip the boom as soon as you're getting low. Nice call out too on the Starmie coming in, which pretty easy call to make, and that the Rhydon's probably not going to risk getting blizzarded, but still, it's a nice call out. Now, Mewtwo coming in, I'm going to guess this is going to have Blizzard and T-Wave. Beyond that, could be anything. and B showing a Tauros. So earlier prediction was on point. A couple of T-Wavers, including a T-Wave Mew, and then a couple physical attackers. As for Gastlies, last at this point, you've got Tauros, Cloisters, T-Wave Chansey, T-Wave Mew, T-Wave Mewtwo. I'm going to guess the last is some kind of physical attacker like Rhydon, Snorlax, because you've got so much T-Wave support and a Cloister to also follow up on T-Waves nicely. But you need a little bit more physical power to go with it, I think. So after getting the T-Wave, Gastly's choosing to sack the Mew. That suggests to me that this Mewtwo does not have recovery, or she's really worried about it getting paralyzed, or both. But a little bit of luck there. The Tauros paralyzes and she gets bailed out with an explosion to chunk it. Her Tauros comes back in to finish up. Pretty hard to switch into Tauros, so it's definitely the correct guy to bring in here. And now, if you're sending Mew into Tauros, you are not happy about it. That's a desperation move, but seems like B can't risk his Mewtwo here. Tauros is just going to bully this. It's pretty tough, even with Mew getting Swords Dance up to reapply the speed drop, especially if this Tauros has Leer, then it's really, really bad. Doesn't seem to have Leer, but even so, like, this isn't a good situation for the Mew. It's still going to take a few hits to get through this Tauros, and Tauros can crit through very easily, as it's possibly doing here. Makes sense that she wouldn't have Leer. It's a lead Tauros. They usually aren't going to run that because you need to have your coverage moves for the early game when there's so many more options to check the Tauros. And she just goes for it. Wow. I think it's like a fair play in that if the Mew is under 90, then crit Hyper Beam just removes it from the game anyway. But even still, I think maybe you just keep slamming and try to keep it low on HP, especially if you're slower like this. B not healing up all the way. I'm not sure that's the right move here. You still have to deal with an unparalyzed Mewtwo. You probably need all your health, especially on this Mew that only has Earthquake for an attacking move. Because Mewtwo is kind of poised to tear through here, depending on what the Mewtwo set is on the other side. And Ghastly's revealing a Rhydon, so there's the other physical attacker that I was predicting before. Both of their teams kind of playing out the way that you would expect after seeing 2 or 3 of the Mons if you know the players behind them. But that Rhydon KO is going to give a chance for B's Rhydon to double in, predicting Chansey to come in. So I want to go back to that for a second, actually. Right here, when the Mewtwo comes in, I think it's fair to assume that Gastly's is not going to go to Mewtwo because it probably doesn't have Recover based on what's shown, so you don't want to take that hit on entry without at least T-Waving with Chansey first. But at the same time, like, the Chansey is such an obvious bring-in and such a complete non-threat. Even if it calls a Seismic Toss as Rhydon comes in, like, it's such a bad spot to be in that I think it's pretty reasonable to expect her to go to Mewtwo anyway and just risk it. So ends up reversing the position on B. I think that might have been B being a little bit off base and understanding how Gastly's plays this tier, because she's way too aggressive to just go to Chansey again like that. Now I'm going to guess she's going to T-Wave on entry. Not risking it, just going for the Blizzard. But this is looking like T-Wave Amni Blizz Boom. It could also be like T-Wave 2 attacks Boom with no Amnesia, but we'll see pretty shortly. And the Rhydon War is obviously favored to Gastly's because hers is at full health, and 60% means her Rhydon should KO. Immediate Boom. Wow, okay, so Rhydon won't kill here, which means she might have to rely on a full paralysis to win this game. On B side, looks like the same thing, Amnesia, Blizzard, T-Wave, Boom. Really common set now, really good set. But she's going to need more than just a sub. She's going to need, well, immediate para like that so that her Rhydon's not an Earthquake range. Okay, he's got Recover, not Boom as the last move. So this is a little better for this situation. But ultimately, once she got the free sub, it was very hard to win this. And Rhydon just showing how ridiculously strong it can be in Ubers, especially if it has the right T-Wave support. And if this Eggy doesn't wake up right away, I'm going to say this is a Gastly's win. Critical hit for good measure, saves like 1 turn, but the egg wouldn't have woken up this turn anyway, so kind of irrelevant RNG. And now almost nothing can save B except for some outlandish RBY luck. and doesn't even get the chance for a 256 or something to give him. He would probably need like 2 of those because Rhydon's not in range of a Rhydon Earthquake right now. The max roll 65.8, so it wouldn't have worked out. So Gastlies gets game 1 pretty handily. A couple paralysis helped out for sure, but I think ultimately just the booms went a long way for her. And I think having those booms is really good. I think not going into the Chansey when it seemed very telegraphed to go to the Chansey also helped her out a lot. So let's get into game 2. So a Jinx and a Mew. Knowing Gastlies, she might just boom this immediately. She's been a big advocate of lead Mew. It's something I've kind of picked up from her too. And one of the benefits of doing that is versus a lead Jinx, lead Egg, you just threaten to explode right away and either destroy the Jinx entirely or put the Egg low enough that it's hard to get sleep later. Either way, if she does or doesn't, she's still probably going to do a lot of damage to this. But she does explode, and there goes the Jinx. I would bet that B has an Egg anyway. Gastly's herself, I could imagine having a Jinx in back. Because kind of the idea is you can run the Mew in lead, and you can switch to Jinx if it's some kind of lead like uh, Starmie or something like that. You can go straight to the Jinx and just put it to sleep. And if it's not, you just boom and open up the way. But, yep, okay. I do know her too well. So the idea of this too is most teams have an executor, right? So if you see a lead Jinx on your opponent's side and you boom it, there's probably going to be an Egg coming in and playing a 50-50 speed tie. Kind of sucks. So she did bring a Jinx, and that means she outspeeds this, which means she's going to be playing 5v4 at the start. B probably has no other Pokemon that he can realistically sack to sleep here, which means that she's just going to have a sleep advantage for the whole game because of this. Really cool strat. I definitely am a fan of it myself. The downside is you are kind of putting your Mew in the lead to maybe have to boom some less optimal booms. Booming the Jinx is definitely like a high roll situation. There's an opposing Gengar lead, like you might just get owned for this. But works out here. If she doesn't miss Lovely Kiss, then this is a really, really bad game for B. I would imagine there's no ice resist on that side. Yeah, straight to Mewtwo. So probably a Mewtwo with Recover. If not, then this is really horrid. So T-Wave Mewtwo, if it doesn't have Recovery, this is really getting bad already. And I would guess Gastly is going to have another T-Wave Explosion Mew or Self-Destruct Mewtwo here. Clicking Psychic, so maybe Psychic Blizzard Boom or maybe Amnesia Psychic Boom. B boosting up. And now this is scary because if she just booms right here, it's not ideal for him. Even with the recovery, but we'll see what happens when she finally gets a chance to pull the trigger. If she pulls the trigger at all, maybe she wants to attack first now that it got a bit of healing off. Seems like she's mono psychic, which does suggest to me that's going to be like Amni Psychic Boom. Either way, not the most ideal situation, but okay, she's got Amnesia Recover, T-Wave +1, and the +1 probably is Boom, given its Ghastlies. And that's a crazy amnesia to click because you're really risking getting Psychic dropped and ending up with the reapplication glitch, and then you'll be kind of in a really bad spot if she just booms immediately. But she ends up getting out to Jinx, probably going to sack it to just get a chance to get something with a different move in. That suggests that it's not Boom on her Mewtwo either. And that drop reapplies, so now, because of that, this Mewtwo only has about 194 special. For context, it has 406 special unboosted. So until it manages to boost again, it is very weak. Luckily, because the Jinx is at -1, it's probably not going to kill with Blizzard, but it's still not a happy place to be. So another Blizzard off, and B really having to risk lots of freezes to get out of this sticky situation from the lead. Mew maybe just going to keep boosting up. That probably suggests Hyper Beam. But I think Ghastly is pretty happy to get 2 T-Waves off on both of the Mews on the other side, even if it costs the Mewtwo like this. And now there's just a lot of offensive pressure coming. So probably B has... Counter is wild. that's you're gonna die to any attack here anyway, so that's really calling a switch out to the Mewtwo to try to heal it up. It's it's a cool idea, but I don't think I love it. I think there's a very good chance that the Mew just attacks if it doesn't have recovery or recovers if it does have recovery. I don't see the Mewtwo coming in on that first turn, so now kind of revealing her hand, but getting a nice crit to bring her back into it. I think, like, despite the Pokemon advantage, I think B is under a lot of pressure here, given how Gastly's led off with this Explosion Mew, Jinx, T-Wave Mewtwo. I'm gonna say probably her last three is probably gonna be like Bull, one more physical attacker, and an Executor, or something like a T-Waver and then some cleanup guy like Slowbro or Articuno. My money is on two physical attackers and an egg. Just seems like the most likely outcome. On B's side, could really be anything. There could be like Rhydon, Zapdos, any like common good Pokemon. I don't necessarily know that what he's shown so far has revealed too much, although T-Wave, Amnesia, Psychic Recover, Mewtwo, and a Sweeper Mew suggests maybe the last two are more supporty Pokemon, and the Mew is considered the win con here. So it wouldn't be unreasonable to see a couple T-Wavers, a Zapdos, a Slowbro, a Starmie, anything like that. We'll see what he's got. And Ghastly's probably going to Hyper Beam this. Okay, just goes for the Body Slam, doesn't want to risk getting switched into and T-Waved by something, and happy to take her KO on Eggy. If there's an Executor on her side, it probably won't get much value with the T-Waved Mewtwo and Mew on the other side anyway, but it still has Boom, which is always incredibly scary. And no reason she wouldn't just keep pushing and go for this. One para could immediately end the game, and now Tauros is in a commanding spot. There is that extra support T-Wave, as mentioned, with the Zapdos. So B will finally put a stop to the Tauros completely rampaging through his team, although Tauros can just Hyper Beam again here. And probably B's last going to be either some physical attacker or another T-Waver, depending how hard he wants to go on this Mew win con. But bringing back the Mewtwo, it's now faster, so chance to recover. Ghastly's, who knows what she clicked there, but would have been crazy if she clicked Hyper Beam to cover her full paralysis. And Tauros quickly losing all momentum here, unfortunately. And kind of getting it back with that Leer. It's still slower, but this does mean she's definitely got another physical attacker in back, and that's going to put on a lot of pressure. Here's the Snorlax, following up on that, and look how much damage that does. And it's faster than this Mewtwo, even if it gets a T-Wave off still. So this isn't safe at all. And I think B either last can't do anything about it, or just forgot about the speed tier, but I would guess it's more likely the last can't do anything about this here, so he just has to give it up. And another Hyper Beam, so Ghastly's covering for the possible full para. I think it's pretty safe to do that in this situation, because even if you're wrong, you still have lots of chances to boom it with Snorlax. And there's another physical attacker from B, so not going all in on the Mew as the win con, but it won't really be enough with Snorlax there to boom. Snorlax boom on Tauros actually not at all guaranteed to KO, but would have done at least 90% minimum. So probably any last from her would have been able to win that regardless. Last was probably an Executor, could have been like some other T-Waver or even more physical offense, but I would think she probably put something else there that has at least some kind of paralysis capability like an egg. Either way, I think she played that really well. I think that 5v4 start was extremely hard to overcome for B no matter what he did. I think the way that he's team building in this set looks a little more refined than that week one versus me, a little bit more ideas behind it instead of just like bringing a bunch of good mons. Though I do kind of wonder about this Mewtwo set here, if this was the most ideal for this team. I'm going to think about that a little bit more. So I do think it's really good at forcing in Mewtwo and Mew to take T-Wave, because Psychic is very hard to switch into if you don't specifically bring like Egg, Mew, or Mewtwo into it. So I do think there's like a very solid idea behind this to force T-Waves for the Tauros and Mew to finish the game out. But It just didn't quite work out here, I think, because Gastly's is a bit ahead of the curve on stuff like this with like the lead Mew plus Jinx stuff. I think the way that she isn't valuing her Mew and Mewtwo as like these world-shattering broken Pokemon and really just saying like these guys have good moves and I'm just going to use them even if it kills the Pokemon is hard to adapt to if you haven't been playing Ubers this year specifically. And as mentioned before, B is playing this tier for the first time in this tournament. Like he's an extremely good player in RBY in general. But I think it's hard to keep up with this stuff if you haven't already been on it for like the last 6 months at least. So Gasly's kind of just got him off the start. Those first couple turns, coming back to it really quick. Like, I mean, by turn two, what do you even do? You're just in the situation here 5v4, no ice switch in whatsoever. And even if you like have a recover Mewtwo, you're still risking crits, you're still risking freezes. It's so hard to play from this kind of momentum disadvantage when your opponent gets so many free switches on you, or if you don't give them a free switch, then you're not getting your health back. So like right here, sure, B gets the paralysis off, but like even after boosting all the way up, your Amnesia Psychic Mewtwo with no other moves, you're not really much of a threat to KO without getting drops repeatedly. And Gasly's just doesn't value her Mew or Mewtwo like that. So this Mewtwo set that's so intent on pulling in Mew and Mewtwo and paralyzing them to set up physical attackers to win just doesn't land because one of the targets blows itself up on turn one and the other one she doesn't care about. So I do think it's hard to keep up with that stuff if you're not actively playing the meta, but good job to Ghastly's winning this one. And for B, I can see the improvement with each set, so I'm hoping that things will turn around for him in the next one. But that's all I've got to say about this one, and I'll see you in another week 2 set soon. Goodbye for now.